Welcome to For the First Time in Forever, the show that aims to fill the gaps in all of your Christmas watch lists. Last week, to further my library of Stanley Kubrick films, I took a look at his 1964 iconic political satire, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. And if you haven't seen that video, you can check it out by clicking the link in the description below. But this week, and also this month here on Luke's Reviews, we're getting right into the Christmas spirit with an entire month dedicated to some festive classics that I will be watching for the first time. And to kick things off, we turn our attention to the wacky and wondrous mind of Dr. Seuss and one of the first live-action adaptations of one of his stories. This is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Wait a second, I am going to be talking about spoilers for this film, so consider this your warning now.
Excuse me.
Hello, little girl.
Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why, no one quite knows the reason. Those were the opening lines to the beloved children's Christmas classic, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. A story in which a grizzled and grumpy creature who loathes Christmas with every fibre of his being terrorizes a local village so that they can share in his displeasure. Dr. Seuss, obviously known for creating a wide variety of imaginative tales for youngsters, struck an absolute goldmine with the creation of The Grinch. We now coin the term itself to simply refer to someone lacking the appropriate Christmas spirit. Seuss had the novel adapted into an animated TV special in 1966, with Frankenstein's monster himself, Boris Karloff, providing the narration.
And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here.
But almost 35 years later, The Grinch would finally make his live-action debut with director Ron Howard at the helm and the incomparable Jim Carrey stepping into the hairy green suit. People love this film. I have seen year after year them say that it is one of their favourite Christmas films, but at the same time, I've also seen people share less than favourable opinions, one of which being my dad, who point blank just refused to put it on the telly around Christmas time, and so I never saw it. And by the time I was older, I didn't really ever see the appeal. That was, however, until the relatively recent release of the new animated Grinch movie starring Benedict Cumberbatch in the titular role. And that was quite bad. Which led me to consider what it was about the 2000 original that made it so popular and beloved by quite a few people. And so with this series on my channel, it seemed like a perfect time to see whether How the Grinch Stole Christmas is worthy of being included in the pantheon of classic Christmas films. I don't feel like I need to relay the plot of The Grinch to you, but just in case I do, you have the residents of Whoville who love and adore Christmas, but living above them in a life of solitude, aside from his adorable dog Max, is the Grinch, an outcast of the village who, after a traumatic experience as a child, despises anything to do with Christmas and seeks to spoil the fun of the Whos. That is, until little Cindy Lou Who tries to turn the Grinch's frown upside down. Here's what I like about the Grinch. It's bananas. It's fantastically loopy. Positively bonkers. And you can tell that Ron Howard is having an absolute blast directing this. From the amazing practical sets that look as if they were ripped straight out of Seuss's book, to the frantic visual style that keeps the film moving at 1,000,000 miles a minute. For kids especially, this is likely to transfix them for the entire 100-minute runtime, which means parents, if you're watching, if you've got household chores that you need to be getting on with, or you've got Christmassy bits and bobs things to do around the house, stick them in front of the telly, they will be glued to the TV screen, and you can crack on in peace. That being said though, there's more than the occasional joke being thrown in for adults too. There's a tongue-in-cheek reference to an affair between Whos.
He looks just like your boss.
Preposterous sexual tension between the Grinch and Christine Baranski's Martha May. And even a blatant hint that some Whos have swinger parties. And if you are a Jim Carrey fan, then his performance as the Grinch should be exactly what you've come to expect. Overacting to the highest degree and behaving as if he just walked into the world's most intense improv class. I mean, he's really terrific in this. The physicality that he brings to the character was immense, cementing himself in a role that would make it practically impossible for anyone to try and top. Sure, some gags crash and burn, but at the same time, it didn't really matter because Carrey has about another 7 up his sleeve ready to hit in quick succession. Think of him like a live-action Looney Tunes. And you can't talk about the Grinch without at least mentioning the stellar work on makeup and prosthetics. The visual transformation of Jim Carrey into the Grinch is just fantastic. It took 8 hours to apply the makeup, almost an hour to remove it, and because it was so restrictive and draining for Carrey, he actually received CIA training in torture coping methods. And because you have such an animated character like Carrey, it's always going to be a challenge to ensure that what you're seeing on screen is not just Jim Carrey in a hairy green suit, it needs to be the Grinch. And because that makeup work is so impressive, the transformation is almost seamless. But, and there is a but, is this one of the all-time Christmas greats? In my opinion, I don't think so. You see, Christmas films are always quite tricky to critique. They aren't really like some ordinary films that come out earlier in the year. They're meant for this one specific time with, presumably, the sole purpose of filling your heart with festive cheer. That does mean that some of them forego the sense of actually being a good movie because they're solely focused on that festive cheer angle. And that's kind of what's up with The Grinch. Did it get me in the Christmas spirit? Absolutely. It's reveling in the Yuletide glee. There's a heartfelt story about a being that felt like he didn't belong, but at Christmas, the town finally accept him and all is right with the world. And Seuss very clearly drew inspiration from the character of Ebenezer Scrooge, a man who at first seemed so miserable and void of Christmas spirit, yet by the end of the story became a beacon of Christmas joy. But the movie does still have flaws. In terms of crafting a story, screenwriters Jeffrey Pierce and Peter Seaman are obviously having a bit of a struggle trying to create a 100-minute movie out of a 69-page book. And so the material you can't help but feel is really plodding along at times. In fact, I'll be honest, I think what this film has is probably the bare minimum that could actually be considered a plot. It just comes over blocky. I think that's the best way to describe it. I think at the end of the day, How the Grinch Stole Christmas may resonate with you more strongly depending on the time that you first watched it. I think if you first saw this as a kid, it's always going to have a special place with you. And whilst I think that the practical creations and Jim Carrey's performance are both of an exceptionally high quality, I wouldn't stack this alongside some of the other Christmas classics. So, after watching How the Grinch Stole Christmas for the first time in forever, it's good, but it's not urgent. Anyway guys, those were my thoughts on that film. Let me know, have you seen How the Grinch Stole Christmas? Is it one of your favourite Christmas movies, or are you a bit like me where you think it's okay, but it's not up there with some of the greats? And as I'm sure some of you are aware, we are so very close to completing the road to 300 subscribers, so if you are watching this video, you have enjoyed yourself, but you are not yet subscribed, please, it's Christmas. It's the time for giving and sharing. Click that subscribe button and I promise you, you won't regret it. And here is a little teaser for the next Christmas film that I will be looking at next week. Thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, please make sure that you click that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All the links to my social media accounts, my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and my letterbox are all in the description below. And if you haven't liked the video, what are you still doing here?